All right, peace to the family, peace to you and yours, peace and Black Power family. Welcome to another episode of African Liberation School, the place where African liberators meet to exchange ideas. We are extremely honored to have two warriors on the rise here with us this evening tonight on African Liberation School. None other than Xolani. Brother Xolani is in the house all the way from the shack, you know what I'm saying? And Brother Lion Blyden is in the building. So we're going to pass the mic over to our brothers, and y'all can give us an introduction of yourself.
So my name is Xolani Yaaba. Those who aren't familiar with me, I'm a warrior scholar, master researcher, uh, author. I just published a book, curriculum book, Breaking the Bondage of the Academic Auction Block. I do deal with curriculum, teaching teachers how to be better in the process of starting my own school, studying under the master teacher Marcus Klein, an African Center Education movement. And I'll get a little bit more into myself, and I want to let my brother Lion introduce himself.
Peace, Black Power family. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, just making sure. Just a shout out to everybody. Peace to the fam. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and speak to the family. We'd like to say one God, one aim, one destiny to all the Pan Africans worldwide. I am president of the local UNIA ACL division here in Buffalo, New York, and surrounding areas. You know what I'm saying? My view of Pan Africanism definitely comes from Garveyism. I know Brother Xolani comes from Brother Steve Coakley's school. Definitely one of my big heroes right there, along with Dr. Clark. But I'll just, I definitely defer to the questions and just follow along with the conversation. I should.
All right, so we can start there in regards to everybody given the opportunity to tell their story, their journey into Pan Africanism. After we follow, I just wanted to get each brother's thoughts on when you hear the word Pan Africanism. Can we get a definition? What it means to you and your journey through Pan Africanism.
You want to go first, though?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so as far as when I like words and etymology and things like that. When you break down the actual, to me, it's as simple as the word. You know, Pan meaning all, African meaning African, and as a Garveyite, we talking about unification is a must, and unification of the Pan African government worldwide. So that means all Africans worldwide. I believe the UNIA ACL Constitution, it says Article 10, Section 1, I believe, that all African descendants are members of the Pan-African government and are subject to, the benefits of it. So that's my view. I come from a pure Garveyite perspective, as well as the people that, and the way that he did it, because he always gave honor to and respect to the people that he learned from and that he built off of, Edward Blyden, Martin Delaney, and just so many more that he made sure that he gave props to everybody and tried to unify everybody. So to me, unification is a must, and that is Pan-Africanism to me.
For me, my journey with Pan-Africanism is a bit different. I discovered it along the lines of when I was in college and academia, doing independent library studies. During college, I learned that racism and miseducation was still running rampant amongst white professors, European social scientists. So I wouldn't even go to my general education courses. I would spend my time in the library, similar to another master teacher and scholar, historian that was a teacher to many of the master teachers, Arthur Schomburg in New York and Harlem. and he had a research center where he was teaching people how to do proper research. I discovered it in college, just looking in the library, doing some research, and then I discovered Dr. John Henry Clark, Bible Clark, and watching his lectures opened up like a whole new world for me. So, like Lion was saying, Pan means all, and African people. And one of the things I learned about going along in academia, you have what the Dragon, Conrad, General, George Jackson calls armchair revolutionaries. And I discovered those way before the social media era, and also, the petty pseudo bourgeois. So learning about Negroes and how Negroes would do anything to destroy movements, and that's just based off my experience. Well, I was railroaded out of academia because I spoke too much truth. I didn't come from the actual narrative of wanting to go into the school of thought, but I have been at one time been attempted to be recruited by the Boule Sigma Pi. I'll explain a little bit more about that experience, but Baba Steve Coakley exposed the Boule, during I think the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a bit about me and my journey, but academia, and then it led me to get off into becoming getting off into African Center education, which Pan Africanism should apply when you're doing African Center education.
Can I just say on the African Center education part, that's awesome. And I used to work with children for about 20 years. We ran a program up here, an after school program, the Bob Lanier Center. And all we did was deal with at-risk youth. And it seemed if we had the same, if I was on the mission that I'm on now, man, with the Pan-Africanism, and, if I could have been teaching that then, oh my goodness. So it's amazing that I'm linking up with you now, brother, because we could just follow your blueprint, man, and just make it happen.
Okay, I wanted to go to the second part of the question in regards to your journey, Brother Blyden, in regards to how you became to identify as a Pan-African.
Well, that's sort of, it's not really that difficult to answer for me because I always identified with African culture. From young, my sister and my grandmother always made sure I knew just different African things. My grandmother was big on Swahili. So from when I was like 2, 3, 4, I was speaking different little, Swahili sentences and things like that. And so I always identified with Africa and African culture. So it was weird to me to grow up and see people that didn't. So, especially when he brought up, oh my goodness, he brought up Dr. Clark and Steve Coakley. As far as my transition recently, like I said, I worked with children for a long time, and over the last 3 or 4 years, I got into really studying African symbols and spirituality and things like that. And that sort of got me into really wanting to do something more about linking us and connecting us as a people. Once I heard, Brother Xolani's story reminded me of Dr. Tony Martin. Once you hear him speak, and then you hear him speak about Garvey, and then you hear Dr. Clark speak, and you hear Dr. Ben speak, and then you hear Booker T. Coleman speak about the school that he and Dr. Clark put together. It's like, well, why aren't we doing this? As a matter of fact, Booker T. Coleman came to our city, and he spoke, gave a lecture, and he basically said, okay, so now I'm going to give you the curriculum that we worked on. All you got to do is open the school. And so that was motivation for me to start trying to bring people together, to try and really do it. More so than I was doing in the past. Like, I've always been down for our people, down for our children. That was my life's work. But now that I have the Pan-African understanding like I said, over the last 4 or 5 years, I think that gives me more weapons and more tools in this fight to try and build this nation?
I'll answer the question. So my journey is a lot different in regards to becoming a Pan-Africanist. I was born and raised in Chicago, single parent household, raised by a mother. I live in Hyde Park, which is a more nicer community, seen as a more of a suburb of Chicago. Majority of my schooling I went through white schools. So I was miseducated severely. I was placed in special ed in 7th grade through 12th grade. And when I got to college, I couldn't really didn't learn how to write a full paragraph till I was in the 5th grade. Was reading at a 2nd grade level. And pretty much I struggled with reading comprehension. I was more into math. That was my subject area of expertise coming up. But as I gotten older and started studying the history and learning how to research, I was more self-taught than most scholars. I took more along the lines of a Dr. John Henry Clark or Arthur Schomburg with my studies and my research. But I discovered Pan-Africanism just by being in the African Studies section of my college library. I would always tell people the library has always been a home away from home for me. But looking at Arthur Schomburg has an essay called Negro, I think it's called Negro Digs Up His Past. And he talks about African people having this past and our great history and different things like that. And having discovered who Steve Coakley is by a way of, I was in my African American Studies department. My mentor, he tells me, I ask him a question. We got a guide to history in the office. I was like, man, if the Alphas was the first, Black Greek letter organization, why is Sigma Phi Pi say 1904? So, and then he told me, don't ask questions you don't want to know the answers to. So I started looking up Sigma Phi Pi, and Steve Coakley names pops up. I connect with Marcus Klein via social media, who has been running his own African Center School for the past up to 10 years. And what happened when I discovered Marcus Klein, I just was interested while I was living in DC before I came back to get my master's from the Carruthers Center for Inner City Studies, African Center Education. So I looked him up. His name popped up. I watched one of his lectures. And during his lecture, he was talking about how Steve Coakley was his teacher. And I had to connect with him after, seeing the work that he was doing as far as building the institution. So, we could talk revolution, we could talk being a Pan-Africanist all day, but if you're not building no institutions that's going to benefit us collectively, especially our children. So the quickest and easiest way to destroy a nation is to destroy the children. Europeans train their children to destroy our seeds and our children on top of the adults, Europeans, on top of the institutions. Dr. Bobby Wright said all of our life-sustaining institutions are controlled by Europeans. That is not oppression, that is slavery. So I'll leave some more, for me to answer during the rest of the question.
Well, as soon as you bring up Dr. Bobby E. Wright, boy, cats start running already. They running already, baby. You bring up Dr. Bobby E. Wright and Steve Coakley. Uh, those two.
Check.
Cats start running, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's those two beautiful examples of the strength of the African mind, and the animosity that comes along with being unapologetic. It's a drawing a line in the sand. I love Dr. Bobby E. Wright's work. Dr. Bobby E. Wright's work resonates with me so much and Dr. Amos Wilson's work resonates with me so much, along with Bob Baruti and uh, Mama Ya and Dr. Remember I Need. Their work resonates with me so much because they're African first, and it's from an African center. So whether they was a janitor or whether they was a scholar, they was going to be talking about and advocating for Africa regardless of profession. So just the synchronicity in regards to what is needed, for our people to return to an African center, you needed an African center guide to guide you back to that particular mind frame before you can, approach the African center. Somebody to spark that need, that zeal, and that value in regards to, the benefits that come along with being an African. You see what I'm saying? The greatest thing I could be called on the planet, or known as, or known for on the planet, is an African. Everything else is subsidiary to that. So now we put, who you are and what you want together, from our vantage point, that's African liberation. You see what I'm saying? So, all of these things together is, something that I see. And also I see, the animosity that comes along with it, from our enemies and our enemies advocates that are among our people. Uh, I know some people, some people that are scholars that hated Dr. Bobby Wright and his work for that particular reason. So, the difference in that world and in the realm of psychology and social science is the difference between one person giving you Ritalin that don't look like you and somebody else who look like you giving you Ritalin. They both giving you Ritalin. You understand what I'm saying? So the approach from an African center is a great differentiator. So, we got a lot of Black psychologists and Black social scientists that are out there, but they out there with European minds. They're out there with the mind of our enemy. So they don't see any distinction because they went to, European schools their whole life, and they got their validation and accreditation and credentials from our enemy. So they can't be using it for our benefit, because nothing that our enemy gives us can be used for our benefit without approaching it from an African center. We can find any kind of tools, whether they raggedy or whether they polished, and use them as weapons of opportunity for the liberation of our people if we are in the right mind frame. So, kind of staying with that page, I wanted to, speak to y'all and really take a look at Pan Africanism in the review. Can we hear some thoughts in regards to, how you have seen Pan Africanism change, how you've seen it being represented? Are we representing it properly? Are we misrepresenting it? We could just go into that and then, build off of that premise right there.
Well, to give a lead into Brother Xolani's book that's coming out, I actually wrote a little book a while ago called Philosophy and Opinion. And it was basically me tracking Pan-Africanism through history, right? And so I was trying to connect the different movements that has gone on throughout history, all to the one Pan-African umbrella. And not just dealing with, like, the migration patterns, about from the African people from the continent and abroad, but the actual movements. So we have, like I say, UNIA and the Universal African Legion as a militant force, and the visual that was a strong visual for the people and helped them feel like there was, defense and protection. Then you move forward a little bit and you have the Black Panthers. You got Robert F. Williams. I think those movements don't get the kind of attention that they should, because it wasn't just about go out there and scare the white man and go out there and do it's about defense and protection. So when we're talking about Pan-Africanism and unifying the nation, one of the things that we find is that what all the bad things that happened and how they happened was because we weren't properly prepared to defend and protect. I know Steve Coakley's focus with the Boule thing, that opened my eyes to a lot of things, because when you start following those trails, you see the different organizations that are part of the different the problems that we suffer. Brother Coakley asked one time on one of his videos I saw, he said, now he showed, you know how he goes, he showed all the lists and everybody's names and everything. He's like, dude, if you see something with an organization in every single city like this, sometimes you see 2 or 3 different organizations in the city, and ain't nothing changed for black folk. You got to start asking questions. And for me, that was the part with that the whole secret society, the whole entire secret society thing. Like, yo, how are we having allegiance to these type of things, but we're not aligning with each other? And that was a major problem for me. So I started asking, some questions, and I made a couple enemies, So I'm sure you know how that go. But as as we do this, we got to expect that, just like those gentlemen and ladies, they stood up and they was warriors at their time, and they took the abuse that they took, man. It's just our time. We just got to get out here and stand up for the truth, because we know what caused the downfall of all of our great, movements, and it's usually we're not prepared to defend and protect. That's the point that I wanted to make. And so I just wanted, I would like to shortly plug my little book, but it's on Amazon, and it's called Philosophy and Opinion by Lion Blyden. But I know Brother Zoe wants to talk about his joint, so I'll let that
go. Yeah, before I get into the book, I'm gonna talk about the state of Pan Africanism. So it's a lot of cats, they be on social media, they be banging super hard, they be going in. And then they be like, tell people not to work, don't go work for the white man, don't do this and that. But they be the one on their job saying, how may I help you? May I take your order? That first and foremost, what Dr. Clark calls it is showbiz liberation. You got your dashiki on, you might have locks, you might have a natural look, might have your hair wrapped however you get down. But if you exclude our sisters, our queens, our mothers, our women, and the children, and even the real elders in the community, and as far as Pan-Africanism or being African or being African-centered, I asked a lot of these cats in the movement, be it social media, what have you, do you even know who Arthur Schomburg is? Do you know who Edward Blyden is? Do you know who Martin Delaney is? A lot of them don't even know who these people are. Or I asked them, do they even know who Baba Baruti and Mama Baruti is? They have no clue. They don't even have a clue who Dr. Maureen Bani is, or who Dr. Bobby Wright is. So it's a lot of African-centered cats that make it like leave a bad taste in people's mouths, that discourage people from even wanting to become African-centered or become a Pan-Africanist. So it's like you got a lot of, bickering, going on within what being African-centered is. Like, we gotta leave like our discrepancies and what we disagree upon at the door, and we have to come together with our strengths. One of my favorite activists and organizers, I call her master teacher, Queen Mother Ella Baker. She said, use your strengths to your best ability. I'm paraphrasing. And we could unify and mobilize. She was Kwame Ture's mentor, Baba Kwame Ture. So we must start teaching a lot of people don't know, a lot of Pan-Africanists, scholars or people that are speaking publicly, like Malcolm X and Dr. Khalid Muhammad, was being taught by Dr. John Henry Clark and Dr. Ben. So we got to start opening our minds and, speak on behalf of real African liberation. And what Dr. Bobby Roy said, the greatest, not weapon, but the greatest portion, the most important aspect and factor of the Black liberation movement is building independent Black nationalist schools or African center schools. So we must start building more schools. I currently work and study under Marcus Klein as a student. He has African center schools, school literacy, which is pre-K. Freedom Home Academy is kindergarten through 4th grade, and Nkrumah International Academy is 5th to 12th grade. He's actually grooming me up and teaching me how to run my own school. Also, Bob Baruti in Atlanta has self-published, to my knowledge, all of his books, or majority of his books, with the Akaban Institute, him and Mama Yaaba. So we gotta start building up. And he actually walked me through the whole entire process of publishing my it's a curriculum book, Breaking the Bondage of the Academic Auction Block. So this is, you could get it on Amazon, you could get it on Create Space, and then I'm currently working on the website for my own institution, the African Entity School. African Entity, I learned that from Bobby Wright. African Entity is the state of being African. So that was the purpose behind naming it, but I'm in the process of starting my own school. But also I want to train my teachers to be African centered, and I also do teacher development. I'm working on a teacher training institute where I'll train teachers how to be African centered, whether they work in the confines of African centered school, parents as well, youth development specialists and experts as well, scholars, if you want to learn how to do proper research. But training our people to be African centered in every way. If we can't, destroy the system or dismantle it, why not teach educator, the Black educator in the public schooling system, how to be African centered, infused into the culture, and whether it's a public, whether it's a charter school. So educating, inspiring people, and then I could get more into the academic auction block a little bit later. But the academic auction block is basically an African centered term for the school to prison pipeline and derailing it with African centered education.
Ashe.
All right, so I had to get that laugh out real quick, man. My bad. Now I'm about to ask two questions. I guess that I seen on the internet. Uh, I even feel funny as an African asking these questions to other Africans, but I guess we could go there for the sake of the internet. Uh, can a person be a Pan African and not want to bring into existence, cultivate, or raise an African family? Meaning that a person could purport to be a Pan African and deal with a lifestyle that is contrary to African centered thought, reality, and the reproduction of an African family. I'll just say that. I'm pretty sure y'all both know what I mean.
I know what you mean, and let me answer that because I think my answer will be faster than Brother Zoe's. I am a Garveyite. We follow the Constitution of the UNIA ACL and the Declarations of Rights of the Negro peoples of the world. We about Black government, and we about making sure we take care of our people. Earlier, I mentioned Article 10 of the Constitution. It mentions that all African people or all people of African descent are members of the Pan-African nation. Those that pay dues to the government are those that are, have votes and things like that, but all members are members of the government now, or members of the nation. Now, as far as how you deal with them within the government, just like we have the differences with the different religious differences, the different ideological differences, political things, you can deal with that. That's a secondary thing as far as when we talk about really building, I think. In any way that you described, the way that you wrote it, the way you asked that question, anything that comes out of that, it still would be secondary as far as really building this nation, I think.
All right, I'll give my insight to the question. Uh, no, honestly, this is just my opinion and my thoughts. It's betrayal. It's treason. You're sharing enemy. You're sharing African, the culture and the history, and it's betrayal. Integration has set us back. We can even look at it from Pat O'Brien versus Board of Education. Figuratively, if you have a child coming up all in public school, say they move to the suburbs, or adopted by a black African child adopted by a European family. So that all they see is white all the time. So psychologically, they're going to be programmed to believe that this is all right. You have a lot of so-called African-centered cats that think green. Think talk black, think white, and live green. And live white. So talk black, think green, and live white. These are the Negroes love European insanity and confusion. I have a full length book that I'm working on called the Intellectual Game Banging, the Identity Crisis of Negroes, and other essays. And my work is inspired by no other than most of my work. Bobby Baruti, he wrote a book called Negroes and Other Essays. Also, Bobby Wright talks about what the mental side is in his book The Psychopathic, got a copy right here. Psychopathic the Psychopathic Racial Personality and Other Essays. So these books have influenced me thoroughly, and the book Marine Brownie wrote, Urugu. So in the books, it talks about the destruction of the African mind, the reality of being African, but the mental side is the systematic and deliberate destruction of a person or a group's mind. So we have a lot of people that are suffering from an undiagnosed mental illness of self-hatred. So it's going to, if you don't marry an African woman, you're an African man, that's treason, that's betrayal to your race, that can destroy, the village. Because the goal of whoever it is, it depends on the child. Every child isn't, gonna wind up being along the lines of an integrationist, but I have a difficult time trusting, this is just my own personal opinion, trusting somebody that I know has socialized and, with Europeans. Because I can't really trust you. What Bob Clark said, he said, once you go over there, stay over there. We don't need you around. I don't even have a lot of people around me even running my institution because I cannot find people that I trust. I seen what happened to Garvey. I seen what happened to Malcolm. I seen even with King, the people that they truly surrounded themselves with, caused their demise. The love for their people outweighed, their thought process, and that, with them allowing to trust people, were very loyal to us as African people, but did not pick and who they surrounded themselves with. They should have been a little bit more strategic in regard to picking the people that they chose to surround themselves with.
Agreed. Just to clarify, when the question is can you be Pan-African? And like I said, according to the Constitution, technically, just by African descent, that makes you that. So, when you say there's menticide and you bring it up to different clinical things, you know what I'm saying? Even if you treat it as that, they still African people. You feel me? And so, also, when you look at what Garvey said, you know what I'm saying? Garvey made it very clear that first of all, his movement wasn't a Back to Africa movement. It was Africa for the Africans at home and abroad.
Mm-hmm.
And not all will make it. Some are useless here and worthless here, and some will be useless and worthless over there. So the goal is not necessarily to save everybody, but you know what I'm saying? no matter how we decide to deal with transgressors or whatever, they are primarily Africans first.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I'm saying? I think if you know what I'm saying, because we follow the motto race first after Dr. Tony Martin's book.
Right.
And if in every single venture we definitely it's race first, you know what I'm saying? We can, you know, again, I quote Garvey to the dirt, you know, be black, buy black, and everything else will take care of itself. Leading by example and showing the example of strong family values, you know what I'm saying? Eventually that will become the norm. But since that's not the norm, you know, other things are taken away to focus. So I just wanted to clarify that, because especially when you brought up the menticide and the actual the clinical diagnosis of that, you said it's undiagnosed, but it is diagnosed, because those are some official doctors that you was talking about, and they know what they're talking about. And you listen to Dr. Francis Wilson. I'm sorry, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, in my book, I call the ones that are Negroes or mentally integrated, I call them Americanized Africans. So they're still African by physical traits on the exterior, but mentally they're European. So we're on the same page, brother. I just, you know, I feel like that's something that people really don't want to talk about. They say we can't talk about the Negroes, and that's who destroyed, you know, what Garvey was doing. You know, he said, I'm paraphrasing, he said, Negroes are the one that betrayed me. I already knew what I was getting with the European, but the Negroes was the ones that are my people. But they betrayed us. Like, what I use the analogy of foot soldiers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Foot soldiers' job was to protect what Shredder was doing. Shredder is white oppression or European oppression and aggression. So we have to start, you know, putting not names, labels on things, but we need to address this as a problem within the movement, because a lot of people aren't talking about it. They feel like you're bashing somebody because they're black. No, they're psychologically white, or as one of my big homies call them. This was my first time ever hearing what a graham cracker. Never heard it, but he put me up on. He's like, man, yo, they graham crackers. Like, think about it. The title for, you know, cracker came from the whip hitting the back of the slave. And that's where, you know, they start calling them crackers and, you know, different things like that. So that, you know, I feel like this is something that does need to be addressed, as far as if we're talking about, you know, Pan-Africanism as a whole. If we're reviewing it, Negroes played a large factor in derailing and destroying and dismantling Black liberatory or Black liberation movements.
I'm currently right now trying to work on a little bit of a documentary about the Garveyite movement here in Buffalo and what happened to it. And you inevitably run into the Boule, obviously, and the NAACP and the organizations that came out of William Du Bois. I refuse to call him Du Bois. William Du Bois' treachery. You know what I mean? Because actually, you know, they started a lot of their things here, and a lot of them remain. So as far as the miseducation, as far as the, you know, Black folks, African people having the wrong type of mentality, having the oppressor's mentality, those things was ingrained in especially in my area. Like I said, I'm working on a documentary now. When you look at Agent 88 and Agent Pete 138, the ones that officially sold Garvey out, like officially. Garvey had to move over in Liberia, where we were about to get the rubber over there, and Du Bois went over and like, you know, the more you really look into it, you got to peel away these different layers, because you're right, it's an oppressive system, but they're gonna make sure that they got somebody that look like you that's gonna do you in. And so we gotta, you know, we definitely gotta have, like I said, defense and protection in all aspects. I'm always talking about the government and how we have to govern ourselves. And if we're not looking into that government, in order to just like every other race does, then we're gonna remain on the bottom, and that's unacceptable.
Okay, so let's do the visionary questions here. Going forward, what is the vision, aspirations, and goals for our people, and how can identifying with Pan-African ideology aid us in attaining these goals?
Go ahead. The vision going forward, I would say, man, for one thing, this is the vision, the way that I would go about doing it. We need more African-centered schools. The school system is messed up. The the Secretary of Education, DeVos, I think, is a charter school person. She advocates for them. So eventually what's going to start happening, you're going to start seeing charter schools pop up all over the place. So what we need to do, we need just as many African-centered schools as charter schools, and start teaching trades, start teaching entrepreneurial programs, start teaching a wide variety of different things so we don't have to depend on sending our children to college. My goal for my school is to give children an option, like if they don't want to go to college, or if they do, cool, but give them other options to provide opportunities so they could. In third grade at my school, my students will start writing up an entrepreneur plan for a business that they want to see. By the time they're in fifth grade, they'll pick up a trade all the way through eighth grade, and then by the time they start high school, they have their own business, and then they can decide whether or not they want to go to college or not. So we have to start visionaries training our children for war, teaching them swimming, camping, archery, fencing, how to build a fire, how to build your own weapons, a wide variety of different things. Teaching them as what Bob Baruti calls warriorhood. Teaching warriorhood inside the classroom during times of war. We must teach our children how to be warriors in every aspect of life. So if you're going to be a warrior as an engineer, allow them to be a warrior. If you're going to be a lawyer, be a warrior lawyer. If you're going to be a journalist, be a warrior journalist. But speak truth to what it is that you are. Remain being centered as an African, whatever it is that you do. So it's going to, for me, it's the children and the youth. If you aren't, doing that, if you aren't talking political education or military science or being educating our children from African-centered perspective, building it, doing it from within the confines of your household. So this is the reason why I wrote the book. I've seen a lot of parents asking, I can't afford to send my child to an African-centered school. What can I do to help implement something to help my child, understand the experiences that they're facing under this system of miseducation and white oppression and aggression? So I came up with the idea to publish the book. The table of contents in the book, I'll read you. It's an essay-based curriculum book. So I have an introduction. Then I have an essay called European Cultural Suicide, Practical Application of the Work, Breaking the Bondage of the Academic Auction Block, Politics of African-Centered Education, Institutional Violence in the Inner City. So when I was talking about Bobby Wright said all of our life-sustaining institutions are controlled by Europeans, that's not oppression, that is slavery. That is what I talk about in that chapter. Institutions promoting not physical violence, but, violence amongst our people from different avenues. Then I have hip hop as an African-centered pedagogy, and then I have political genocide of African people. So this is the table of contents, just so people can see it. And also I self-publish, so I can own all my stuff. So through my institution, the African Liberators School, I do publishing for African-centered writers as well. It's a publishing / consultant / African-centered education programming to implement, whether it's homeschool, after-school program, summer program, African-centered school, you name it. I'm gonna help guide you and provide you with opportunities to be successful.
Ashe. Well, that publishing idea is awesome. I've written a couple of books as well. They definitely, I'm sure they're not as extensive as yours. It was mostly about, they were me taking notes, and then I decided to compile them because I was trying to disseminate the information to other people. I ended up just throwing it all into a book. So I'll put the links out there. One of the ideas that I've had as far as what we should do as far as Pan-Africanism outside of education, because that's the answer. There is no other answer. Education is the answer. We have to know the answer, how to take care of each different problem specifically. But for me, I follow the Garveyite movement when he said that Black people, African people, are more spiritual than anything else. He put together the Liberty Halls, and the Liberty Hall is how he organized people. Now, although it was definitely an organizing thing, it was all about learning. When they came together, they gave lectures that was informative. Here in Buffalo, one of the first Black doctors here in Buffalo was giving lectures on hygiene and dental care and things like that. The ladies got together and discussed different herbs and medicines. And, it was it was like a dojo. Everybody came in and mastered their craft. And it was all done under the style of a church service. And I know some people veer away from that, but Garvey had a plan where he unified African people worldwide, regardless of religion, regardless of political or any other ideological differences. He was able to pull them together with this plan. And if he could put together music, if he could put together a performance, and he could put together a good speech at the end, the people would absorb the message and walk away with it. So not only do we have to make sure we got quality message, we got to have a quality delivery of the message. And so what I tried to do, I was thinking about, I'm a debater too. I got into a lot of religious debates in my lifetime. And so I think about how, a Muslim can quote a surah from the Quran, or a Christian can quote a verse from the Bible. And it occurred to me, what if African children could quote from Dr. Amos Wilson? What if they could just quote from Dr. John Henry Clark and not just say his words, right? But what if they could be like, John Henry Clark, paragraph 1, verse 3 of "You have no friends out here." You hear me? And if they could start, just being able to, just rattle it off. Because somebody say to you, John 3:16, it don't matter how far out the church you are. You know what I'm saying? You have some sort of understanding of that.
That's cold.
Well, I mean, that's why we were supposed to meet, brother. This is the whirlwind. It works in mysterious ways. You dig? Because, I brought this concept up at the convention last year. And one of the elders, she's one of the oldest living Garveyites currently right now. She said she brought it up like 50 years ago. And it's going to be meticulous. It's not a game. It will be a lot of work. We have to pick out the exact things, the exact speeches that we wanted to deal with, how we would break them down. But when Garvey said we must canonize our own saints and, respect our own martyrs, like, listen, we have to do that, and we got to do it with everything. And so I have the model of the rites and rituals of the old Liberty Hall. And we tried to, model what we call Sankofa Ministries. We have a Facebook group. I invite everybody to join. Sankofa Ministries of Buffalo. Our heritage is our doctrine, is our motto. We follow the 54 declarations of the declarations of the Negro peoples of the world, and the 42 affirmations of Mayat. To me, it's very simple. If we could just follow a government structure, a basic culture structure, you know what I'm saying, and find ways to teach that. It's like I said, be black, buy black, and everything else will take care of itself. And again, I think, man, for us to link up, I want to give you more of this idea and see where you take it, because this is what we need. We need our own scholars, focusing on getting the message inside the brains of the next, not even the next generation. Real talk. I tell people, I don't see us really seeing a major change in our lifetimes. I'm working and fighting for our grandchildren. You're like, we got to do the things that our grandparents didn't get a chance to do, and that's my goal. So I don't want to talk too much. Race First, y'all can find me on Facebook, and I'll link you to my little book links.
Okay, we can shift gears to one last question, and then we could go into final thoughts. My last question will be about nation building. Like, we hear a lot about nation building, but we don't really start from the root. I think we start with the fruit instead of the root. So can y'all share your thoughts on nation building, and where do we go from here?
No doubt. I feel like nation building starts with the family, the family structure, or what we define family as. For me, it goes back to our children. Most of the African warrior scholars, they always say the easiest way to destroy a nation is to destroy the children. So we got to educate and empower our seeds, plant seeds, and grow. I always use the analogy of a plant or a flower. If you don't get that plant or flower or sunlight, water, food, nurture it, take care of it, it will wilt and die. Period. So we got to start nurturing the minds of our children. That's the only way we're going to see any, changes as far as nation building, teaching them not only, intellectual skills with learning, but teaching them practical application of doing the work and actually going out and doing it, teaching them how to garden and agriculture, teaching them about, finding a water source that's natural, different things like that, growing your own food. That's revolutionary. Teaching them, how to use a gun, but using it responsibly, giving them the political education and the responsibility to know, like, you have power with this gun, but also your mind, you have mental power over, how to use it constructively. But we must teach our children how to build things. We need builders. We have a lot of people talking. It's time to really get in and get off into actually doing the work. So the reason why I chose to self-publish is because it allows me to control, the market for what I'm doing, but also create other opportunities for other people to be successful. So we do need the propaganda. Like, Get This Wisdom magazine. Love what y'all doing. We're putting out great information. We need, a wide variety of education is very important. Propaganda plays a factor in the miseducation process. So we have to educate and empower our children. I think that's the only way for me. Vision going forward. We need to see African center schools all over the globe, not just in America and the Caribbean islands and all over the different Americas. Anywhere that people African descent are, we need to have African center schools. I feel like that's the way that we will build the nation through. And schools are meant for organizing as well. So teaching classes to adults also is something I like to see done, especially ones that's working and educating our children, from teachers to scholars at universities to even parents in the household. That's how we're going to reach our children. Cleansing the minds of our, of European, psychology and propaganda to more of an African-centered lens of doing the work.
I say, and you started off with a plant reference, so I'm gonna go the same route. One of the first lessons we taught with our school group, our little study group, African Ancestry Academy here in Buffalo, was what I call the tree talk. We asked the children, "What is a tree?" And you go around the room, and it they give you all types of different answers. We said, "Well, what makes a tree strong?" You know what I'm saying? And it's roots. And so when we start talking about, well, how does the roots of a tree make a tree strong? You know, they tell you the nutrients and it eats that way and the water and everything like that. And it also holds them firm to the ground. And so we start getting in all these different types of analogies and start giving them this imagery.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of the lesson, we have them draw themselves as a tree. And it's a nice little cute thing for the children to do.
That's ill. I use a tree reference too a lot, but then I'm gonna add that.
Well, I mean, because we are trees. I heard this one roster brother break that whole thing down. That children are trees, and which means we are as well. But that's a different story. Anyways, I just thought that was a neat little thing because you went with the plant thing as well. So yeah, please take it, run with it, because that's what it is. Because we got to look at if we look at ourselves like a nature thing, right? Like we have to be treated just like nature has to be treated. We can't take ourselves out of nature. That's the first thing our culture taught us, that we would run with everything else. But as far as the nation building, it's just like Tony Martin said. It's race first. It's Black power. Like people think Black power is always a negative thing. Black love is Black power. Making sure the babies survive is Black power. You know what I mean? Race first is not racist. You know what I mean? So if we looking out for our race first, just like everybody else is, as far as survival is concerned, it should not be a problem. So we can start instilling just that small little bit into our children, you know what I mean? And into each other, because a lot of us don't have that. You know what I mean? We don't understand. Trust me, when I say race first to a lot of people, their face frowns up all fast. I say, what you talking about, man? That's all racist. And then I live in Buffalo, and up here, we have a lot of Native Americans. Tribes were here. Like this was one of the epicenters of where Native American tribes were, and so all the street names are after Native American names. And I give them the example because they get they got casino land up here. What's it called? It's called the reservation. They own a lot of property up here as well though, and I give the example to the people, like you realize that the reason that they gain any benefit is because they operate as a nation. They move with the government of our areas to gain benefits, however small, however big it is, as a nation. They don't go down there and protest and screaming and hollering. They have an election or a discussion amongst the people, amongst their own government officials first, and then they send out the message that they collectively want to send to this government, the city government or whatever. And it's like, everybody does that. The Jewish Americans do it, Chinese Americans do it, Japanese Americans do it. It's very rare that you find a lot of them, individually going to deal with things, because it's,
that's a good idea though, to do our own election and pick that person to be the representative of us. Wow.
We already did though, brother. Like I said, I'm saying I really officially represent the UNIA-ACL of the world family underneath the 11th President General Administrator, the Honorable Michael Duncan. The government that Marcus Garvey created is not gone anywhere. It's been dormant for a while, but it's time. And the key to that movement and why it was so big was because they had the best minds, that was African centered, pulling together. Like you said, Dr. Blyden was one of the editors for Negro World. The voodoo priest, led by Eliezer Kadei, was one of his advisors. Duse Ali Muhammad was an advisor. Rabbi Josiah Ford, all these different, Leonard P. Howe, the first Rasta, all of these came together, to talk about that government. How we about to bring, that's what I try and tell the brothers today because I still every now and then accidentally trip into a debate. I try and explain to the brothers, like, listen, man, okay, you're a Moor, you're a Hebrew, you're a Christian. Fine. Just you guys, if you look at it as nationhood, you guys are just separate city-states underneath the one Pan-African nation. We all still same people. You know what I mean? We all saying that the people that look like us need to come together and fix things. And we can just understand that we have to come together regardless of what you believe. You see what I mean? Like, that's fine. Believe that. But just come on. Right? We got to find a way to break through those molds. And it's difficult, but you know what I'm saying? We're going to get there eventually. I got to rambling, so I apologize. I lost my focus.
My brother, you was right on focus. No such thing as losing that. So, I definitely want to thank y'all both for coming through. I think got to have y'all back on together. We can go into some other things. Want to get y'all finally out to the people. Please leave them your information, how to get in contact with you, and the floor is yours.
All right, so Xolani Yaaba, you can find me on YouTube. Africanity Institute is the YouTube channel. I have some videos on there. Facebook, Africanity School is the school page. Then you got me on Facebook under that name. If you can't add me, send me a message. I'll do my best to add you because Facebook be on my putting me in and out of Facebook jail. Instagram, follow me Xolani Yaaba at Xolani Yaaba. And you know, feel free to reach out to me. And also, please, if you get a chance to purchase my book, it's a curriculum guide. It's $25. I also lecture as well. I have some lectures on YouTube. But Breaking the Bondage of the Academic Auction Block. This is a guide and curriculum book. It's a book, but also you could read from it, take notes in it. But you can learn how to implement African-centered education program, whether it's school, after-school program, summer program, you know, youth development program. If you want to become African-centered, it's a guide to helping you become African-centered. So Breaking the Bondage of the Academic Auction Block, Xolani Yaaba, on Amazon or CreateSpace, either or. So $25, but you get what you would get in a college, you know, university classroom in one book. And you don't even have to go to school for $25. And then, you know, I have other lecture DVDs and different things like that. I have a lecture called Intellectual Game Banging. I have some other like brief lectures I did on Facebook I'll be uploading. I have Intellectual Destruction of the African World Community, Breaking the Bondage of Miseducation Part 3, and Educational Mental Side of African Children. These are all lectures on YouTube. And then you just Google my name. I got interviews that come up, and also search my name, Brandon Lamar Skates. That's a former name that I went by. And you'll find videos and footage and interviews of me online and on YouTube. Peace.
Priest, Brother Bourne, I just want to say thank you again for giving me this opportunity. Shout out to Brother Xolani. Big up all of the work that you're doing, brother. Somehow my camera has been not working this entire time. I don't know what's going on. I too have a couple books out, but again, I'll post those online. Anybody can link with me on Facebook. Like I said, Sankofa Ministries, Our Heritage is Our Doctrine, the UNIA Buffalo page 433. There's a lot of things going right now. I want to say so much, but I want to at least give a shout out to the Restaurant Owners Corporation out in New York City. It's 132 to to 205 Merrick Boulevard inside Belknap Street. It's the Restaurant Owners Corp, run by the African Caribbean African I can't think of the word right now. You know what I'm saying? Black folks own this co-op, and it's awesome. It's just like a restaurant depot. Like if you need things for your restaurant or things like that, supplies, food, and things like produce, they have that for you. And so it's the FACAROC. And if you get in touch with me on Facebook, again, I'll be able to link you to that. This is a move. This is the closest thing we got to the Black Star Line from Garvey's day. This is the big effort right here from the government. Anybody that wants to link with me, my name is Lion Akindele Blyden on Facebook. We also have a couple web pages, Sankofa Ministries.webs. But like I said, I'll probably be able to share this with anybody that can get in touch with Brother Bourne. For me, I think the answer for all these solutions is to join an organization. If it's not the UNIA, if you don't link up with Brother Xolani, you got to join somebody. We are connected with the People's New Black Panther Party. the Huey P. Newton Gun Club, Oyatunji, the Congress of African People. If you must link with somebody so we could start pulling all of these entities together, because it's the way the world is going, they're making sure they let us know, that they remind us of how they felt about us when they first started this Maafa against our people. So I want everybody to remember race first. Please go look up Dr. Tony Martin and all the different names that we mentioned this evening. Brother Xolani, I'm going to pull all my books from the different sites that I got them published on. If you can get them on African Entity Publishing, you just let me know how we got to make that work. I'll publish all my books through you from now on. Race first to the dirt.
Yeah, most definitely we can make it happen. Also, big shout out to my teacher, teachers, Baba Baruti and Mama Baruti with the Akaban Institute. Support though. Please support African Center Schools so they have their own African.
BB for Hodier.
Oh yeah. Bob Baruti in Atlanta and his wife, Mama Baruti, and then you got Marcus Klein, that's been doing it 10 plus years. He started off with Frontline Magazine. The reason why he started a school because he didn't want his children going to public schools. So we must educate and inspire our children, but we must support our African Center schools so they could continue to run and do different things such as liberate the minds of our children, and that'll be the way to help build our nation. Peace and love. Born, thank you, bro. You know, you got me started on, with me doing interviews and stuff like that. So I appreciate you, having me on yet another again. So peace and love, bro. I appreciate you, man.
All right, family. Y'all heard the call to action. Make sure y'all support Dr. Baba Mwali K. Bomani Baruti and Mama Ya at www.akabenhouse.com, www.akabenhouse.com. Make sure y'all support my brother, buy his book. You know what I mean? I'm gonna get a couple copies of the book, and Brother Lion, wherever your books are, however it goes, I'm gonna get all your books, and then we're gonna do a book review. So I'm gonna have both of y'all on again after I get the book. After I get the books, and we could do another book. We could do a book review, and if y'all want to start like a book club, you know what I mean. I know Sister Alima Njai is doing Blueprint for Black Power. So if y'all want to choose any of the texts, we could go through them. We could break them down. We can mastermind on them. So however that want to go, we can get that word out. You know what I mean? And we can get the brothers and sisters together and do that. Just holler at me. Whatever kind of support I could offer to either one of you, either one of y'all in your endeavors, just let me know. You know what I'm saying? And we definitely could make that happen. I want to give a strong Black Love, Black Power salute to Get This Wisdom magazine, the Warrior Queen, True and Living Earth Shock, the Everlasting Peace Earth. Make sure y'all subscribe. That yearly subscription is $1, so that's like $1 a day for a month. Get that yearly subscription. Take pride in supporting Black institutions. We in Black August. We standing in Black Solidarity 365. As African people, we stand in solidarity with one another for our future. So www.getthiswisdommagazine.com. Y'all can catch me every day on Do Knowledge Radio, www.blogtalkradio.com/Do Knowledge Radio. That's DOTHAKNOWLEDGERADIO. Check us out at our hub site, e-commerce site, www.doknowledgeuniversity.com. So again, want to thank our brother Xolani and our brother Lion for coming on, showing love, dropping jewels, gems, and bombs. So with that, I say peace, love, Black Power. Be before the this is African Liberation School, every Saturday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're out there listening and you want to slot on African Liberation School, y'all can email me at doodleknowledgeradio@gmail.com. Peace.